Isadora Moon meets the Tooth Fairy. Chapter 1. It was Sunday morning and we were all having breakfast in the kitchen. I can't believe you're still eating those strange rainbow loopy-loops from the human supermarket, shuddered Mom. You could be having flour nature yogurts like me. My mom is a fairy and only likes eating nature food. I like them, I said, spooning a whole heap into my mouth and biting down with a big crunch. They really look disgusting, agreed Dad, as he took a sip of his red juice. My dad is a vampire and only likes food if it's red. I shrugged and carried on chewing. I am a mixture of both vampire and fairy, so I like all sorts of different foods, even human food. My baby sister Honey Blossom is the same. I spooned some more loop-loops into my mouth. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And then I stopped. Something felt strange. What's the matter, Isadora? Asked Dad, peering at me. You looked worried, said Mom. I swallowed the loopy-loops and then reached up to touch my front fang. It wiggled. Oh, I said, feeling shocked. Mom and Dad both beamed at me. You've got a wobbly teeth, said Mom. A wobbly fang, said Dad. How exciting! That means your growing up vampire teeth must be coming through. You will be able to put it under your pillow when it fell out, said Mom. The tooth fairy will leave you a shiny silver coin. Ooh, I said. Pink Rabbit jumped up and down beside my chair with excitement. Pink Rabbit used to be my favorite stuffed toy, but my mom magicked him alive with her wand. Dad didn't seem quite so excited. The Tooth Fairy, he said, frowning. Of course, said Mom. It's tradition. All young fairies leave their teeth out for the Tooth Fairy. She needs teeth to build her palace. Why can't she use bricks like everyone else? Asked Dad. They're not as pearly, said Mom. Humph, said Dad. Well, I don't agree with the Tooth Fairy. Vampires never give their precious fangs away. They get them framed and put them on the wall. Surely you must have seen my first fangs displayed on Granny and Grandpa's wall? I suppose I have, said Mom. Now that I think of it, she took a sip of her flower petal tea, looking disappointed. Well, I guess it's up to Isadora what she wants to do with her fangs, she said. I guess, said Dad, looking equally disappointed. I stared from Mom to Dad and then back again. Suddenly, I didn't want my wobbly teeth to fall out. It would be easier to just keep it in my mouth. Then, no one would be disappointed. Anyway, that reminds me, said Dad. I need to book a vampire dentist appointment. It's been many full moons since my last checkup. Isadora, you ought to come to now that your grown-up fangs are starting to come through. You can learn how to properly look after them. Me? I squeaked. Yes, said Dad. It will be a nice father-daughter bonding moment. I stared at Dad in horror. The idea of going to the dentist that did not seem like a nice father and daughter bonding moment at all. Vision of shiny steel instrument and noisy wheeling drills flashed into my mind as I felt a bit sick. Okay, actually, Dad, I said, I don't need to go to your dentist. Oh, but you do, said Dad. If you want to learn how to keep your fangs look polished and perfection, only a vampire dentist knows how to look after vampire teeth. But I don't want to go, I said. There's nothing to be frightened of, said Dad. My dentist is a very nice vampire. He's called Count Banacula. It will be just a little checkup, that's all. Very quick. And then maybe we can go out for a treat afterwards. How about that restaurant you keep talking about? The one your human friends like? Milkshake Burger, I said. It got Shirley Turley ice cream machine. That's the one, said Dad. I will take you for a burger and fries at Milkshake Burger afterwards. Well, that's sorted then. I will book the appointment after breakfast. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about the dentist's appointment, and I also couldn't stop wobbling my teeth. Even though I tried hard not to, I didn't want it to come out because then I would have to decide what to do with it. Mom would be really disappointed if I didn't put it under my pillow for the tooth fairy, and Dad would be really disappointed if I don't give it to him and put on the wall. You don't seem very happy, said Joey at the school on Monday. What's the matter, Isadora? I have to go to dentist tomorrow, I said. But that's not scary, said Joey. I went last week. I got a sticker with a smiley face on it. It's a vampire dentist, I said. He's called Count Benacula. Oh, said Joey, and her face turned pale. Well, I'm sure it will be fine. It won't be, I said. I know it won't. Joey didn't reply, and I knew that I was right. I'm not afraid of vampires. I am half one of after all. But the idea of a vampire dentist gave me a shiver. Count Benacula would probably be tall and skinny, with the long spiky fangs and red glowy eyes. He would come towards me with sharp pointy instruments and poke around with them in my mouth. I'm sure it won't be different from the normal dentist, said Joey. After a moment, I expect he will just be wearing a black cape, that's all. I don't like the normal dentist either, I admitted. Why not? Said Joey. My one is really nice. I've never been, I whispered. What? Joey stared at me. How have you never been to the dentist? Vampires have really strong teeth, I said. We don't have to go until our grown-up fangs start coming through. Oh, said Joey. But if you've never been to the dentist, how can you know that you won't like it? I just know, I said. Chapter 2. The following evening, Dad and I stood together by the front door. We had both spent 20 minutes in the bathroom brushing our teeth, and Dad was wearing his smartest cape and had even put on some afterwards shave. It's quite an occasion going to the dentist, he said. We're going to have such fun. I didn't feel like we were about to have fun at all. My tummy felt as though there was frog jumping inside it, and I haven't been able to concentrate at all in school. Have a nice time, smiled Mom, as she kissed us both goodbye. Dad and I left the house. It was dark outside and there was a wind blowing. Hold my hand, said Dad. You don't want to get swept away. Together, we rose up into the air and flew up towards the clouds. I especially like flying when I hold Dad's hand because he can go so much faster than me. We whizzed through the night air and across to the other side of town where there was a tiny little alleyway between two houses. It's through here, said Dad, as we landed on a pavement. I stared into the darkness of the alleyway and shivered. I don't mind the dark usually, but tonight felt different. Come on, said Dad cheerfully, pulling me along. I held on to Pink Rabbit tightly. We made our way through the alleyway and out to the other side. There was just one building there, a tall one with arched Gothic windows. Above the door was a sign saying Count Benacula Dentistry. It all looked very imposing. I don't want to go in, I said, suddenly feeling panicked. I can't. Of course you can, said Dad. There's nothing to be afraid of. And don't forget we're going to go to Milkshake Burger afterwards. My stomach turned and at the thought of milkshake I just felt sick. It's okay, Dad, I said. Really, you go in and I will wait outside. I'm not really leaving you outside on your own, said Dad. Why don't you come inside and watch me have my appointment? I think you'll see there's nothing to be frightened of. I followed Dad into the building and towards a big reception desk. There was a lady vampire sitting there with a covered hair and gleaming fangs. "Good evening," she smiled. "Good evening," said Dad. "The name's Bartholomew Moon. And this is Isadora. It's her first time at the dentist." "Oh, how exciting," said the receptionist. "You're in for a treat, Isadora. There's nothing better than having a newly polished set of fangs." Then she pointed to a row of chairs where we were supposed to wait for Count Banacula. There was another vampire around my age sitting there, reading a magazine. He didn't look worried about being at the dentist at all. I sit down next to Dad and wait our turn and hugged Pink Rabbit tight. After what seemed like forever, a door opened, and a vampire poked his head around. "Bartholomew and Isadora," he said, and I felt the frog leaped in my tummy once again. We followed the vampire down a candlelight corridor and into another room, where there was a chair with all sorts of mirrors and wires attached to it. Sitting next to the chair was an old vampire with silver hair and round glasses with thick red frames. He didn't look anything like the picture Count Banacula that I had imagined in my head, but still I wasn't sure him at all. "Ah, Count Moon," said Count Banacula, leaping up to shake Dad's hand. "How nice to see you again. And this must be Isadora?" "It is indeed," said Dad proudly. Count Banacula beamed down at me, and I decided he definitely looked friendly, but I still didn't like the sort of chair or any other stuff equipment I could see in the room. "I'll go first," said Dad eagerly, sitting down on the chair. Isadora is a little worried about coming to the dentist, so I said she could watch me have my appointment first. "Good idea," said Count Banacula, and he put on a mask and a pair of rubber gloves and a loud snap. "There's nothing to be frightened of. Open your mouth, please, Count Banacula. Would you like some cucumber slice on your eyes for the complete relaxation experience?" "Yes, please," said Dad. Once the cucumber slices were in place, Dad opened his mouth, and I watched Count Banacula perched over a tray of sharp and shiny instruments. He picked up a tiny mirror and poked it into Dad's mouth. I started to say lots of words that I didn't understand while his assistant wrote them down on a clipboard. "All looks good, Count Moon," said Count Banacula. "I can see you have been flossing." "Every day," said Dad. "Good," said Count Banacula. "Well, all that's left for me is to do your fangs a good clean and polish. Get rid of any plaque." I shivered as Count Banacula took another spiky-looking instrument from his tray. It had a sharp hook on the end of it. He began to scrape at Dad's fang. Dad didn't seem bothered. In fact, he looked as though he was having a great time. But I didn't like the look or sound of the hook at all. Scrap, scrap, scrap. I want to put my hands over my ears. Then Count Banacula took some sort of plate, passed and little electric whizzing beneath, and put that in Dad's mouth too. He moved it over all his teeth. Then the cucumber slices were taken off his eyes, and he was told to sit up and spit into a basin. Count Banacula got out a velvet cloth and gave Dad's front fang a final polish. Then he held up a mirror so that Dad could admire himself. "Oh yes, lovely," said Dad. "Very shiny. Thank you, Count Banacula." He hopped up the chair and gestured for me to sit down. "Your turn, Isadora." I stared in horror at the chair. I really didn't want to sit down at it. Count Benecula put his rubber glove fingers and shoved shiny instrument into my mouth. Go on, said Dad. It won't take long. I won't bite, said Count Benecula from behind his dentist mask. I promise. I began. But I couldn't seem to get any words out. My mouth and throat felt frozen with fear. My feet, however, was not frozen. All of a sudden, they started walking away from the chair and towards the door. And then they started running all the way down the corridor and into the reception and out of the front door. I stood on the chair, panting and waiting for Dad. Isadora, he said, when he had to caught up with me a moment later. What happened? I can't do it, Dad, I said. I just can't sit in the chair. Dad looked disappointed and I felt bad. Maybe you need more time to get used to the idea of going to the dentist, he said. Maybe, I said, in a quiet voice, although in my head I knew that I would never be ready. Never ever. Chapter 3. Mom was still up when we got back. She was in the kitchen baking a cake. I thought I'd stay up until you got back, she said brightly. How was your appointment, Isadora? You don't look very happy. Isadora just needs a bit more time to get used to the idea of going to the dentist, said Dad, as he hung up his cake, and I nodded in agreement. What cake are you making, Mom? I asked, trying to make the subject. Red velvet with red icing, said Mom. Dad's favorite. It won't be ready until tomorrow morning, though. So if you want something to eat before bed, you can have an apple. I took an apple and bit into it as I walked up the stairs to my bedroom. Crunch, I gasped as I stared down at the bite marks I had made. There was a fang sticking out of the apple. My fang. Carefully, I pulled it out and held it up to show Pink Rabbit. Look, I whispered, it's fallen out. Pink Rabbit bounced up and down on the step with excitement. Maybe it's best not to tell Mom and Dad about it just yet, I said, as we continued walking up the stairs. I need to decide what to do with it first. When Mom and Dad came to tuck me in before I sleep, I kept my mouth shut very tight so that they couldn't see my new gap in my teeth. When they had gone, lit my wand and stared at the fang in the palm of my hand. What shall we do, Pink Rabbit? I asked. Shall we put it under the pillow for the tooth fairy, or shall we keep it so Dad can frame it on the wall? Pink Rabbit flapped his arms up and down. I know you want to give it to the tooth fairy, I said, and I do too, sort of, but think how disappointed Dad will be. First, fangs are very important to vampires, and besides, there's a tiny vampire part of me that wants to keep it too. I stared at the fang for a longer time, but I still couldn't make up my mind. Pink Rabbit stared yawning, which made me yawn too. We were very tired after our trip to the dentist. I know, I said. Let's hide the tooth somewhere in my room. Somewhere the tooth fairy won't be able to find it. Then we can have more time to decide what to do with it. Pink Rabbit slept loudly as I gazed around my room in the darkness. Where would be a good place to hide the fangs? How about the doll's house? I whispered. I slipped out of the bed and padded across the floor to my doll's house. Quietly, I opened the front of it and bent down to peer inside. Using my wand as a torch, in a tiny bedroom there was a tiny wardrobe. That would be perfect. Carefully, I opened the miniature door of the wardrobe and slipped the fang inside. Closed them again afterwards. No one will ever know to look in there, I said, feeling pleased with my idea as I hopped back into bed. I'm sure Tooth Fairy only look under the pillow anyway. Then I snugged up with Pink Rabbit and went to sleep. A few hours later, I woke to a strange scuffing sound in my bedroom. Is that you, Pink Rabbit? I whispered dreamily as I reached out to feel for him. But he was still in the bed with me, fast asleep. Scuffer, scuffer, scuffer. I opened my eyes and frowned in the darkness, feeling just a tiny frightened now. What could be making that kind of noise in my bedroom in the middle of the night? Carefully, so as not to make any creaking sounds, I sat up in bed and peered around my room. Everything was in the shadow except for one thing, my doll's house. Chapter 4. There was a warm pink glow coming through the window in the tiny kitchen, and it kept moving and flickering about. Surely something that was small enough to fit inside my doll's house couldn't be scary. Feeling more curious than frightened now, I slipped out of bed and crept across the floor to the doll's house. Kneeling down, I peered in at one of the windows and gasped. In the kitchen, and making a terrible mess, was a tiny velvety-looking mouse with a pink nose and sparkly wings. She had a bag slung across her shoulder with a picture of a tooth on it, and the light was coming from a mixture wand that she held in her paw. She was very busy opening every cupboard and drawer in the kitchen, pulling out tiny saucepans and cups and plates and leaving them scattered on the floor. She was obviously looking for something, and I knew what it was. My fang! I moved away from the kitchen window and sat down on the floor, wondering what to do. The little light was moving out of the kitchen now. It vanished for a moment and then reappeared upstairs in the dining room. I didn't want to frighten the fairy mouse, but I didn't to stop her getting upstairs to the bedroom where was my fang hidden in the wardrobe. Gently, I pulled open the front of the doll's house. There was a tiny eek, and I peered into it and see the mouse staring up at me with a frightened eyes and quivering whiskers. It's okay, I whispered quickly. I won't hurt you. But I'm not supposed to be seen, squeaked the mouse and clutched her tiny tooth back to her chest. I won't tell anyone, I promised. I just want to talk. My name is Isadora. What's yours? Mignolette, said the mouse. But I shouldn't be telling you that either. She put her hand in her paw and shook it. This is my first tooth mission, she wailed, and I've already done it wrong. You haven't done anything wrong, I said, feeling really bad for opening the doll's house door. You couldn't help being seen, and I promise I will never tell anyone about you. Mignonette peered up at me through her paws, but she looked a little less worried. Are you a tooth fairy? I asked. I didn't know that the tooth fairy was a mouse. I'm a tooth fairy, said Mignonette. There are lots of us. We all work for the tooth fairy queen. She's too big to sneak into child's bedroom, which is why we do it for her. Oh, I said, that makes sense. My mom's fairy, and she's not miniature either. It's an important job being a tooth fairy, said Mignonette, pulling out her little chest. And I really want to get my first mission right. We got an alarm that one of your fangs had fallen out. The queen was terribly excited, and she sent me to come and fetch it. But I couldn't find it anywhere under your pillow. That's where you're supposed to put it, you know. But then my tooth fairy sense started tingling when I saw your doll's house. I think you've hidden it somewhere in here. I didn't reply, but I could feel my cheeks turned red in the darkness. Fangs are really special, continued Mignonette. They hardly get any of them. Vampires are so positive over their teeth. They put them in glass box and frame them on the wall so that we can't get them. Isn't it that odd? I suppose, I said. So can I see the fang? Where is it? It will be so amazing to bring a fang back on my first tooth mission. I will get a medal for it, you know. Really? I said, forgetting about that for a moment and thinking about how lovely it will be for Mignotet to get a tiny little mouse medal. Yes, squeaked Mignotet, and you will get a special gold coin. We always leave special gold coins for fangs. Well, if it's a good quality shiny fangs, of course. Oh wow, I said, tempting to hand my fang over to Mignotet right there and then. Matt would be delighted, but Dad would be disappointed. And maybe I would be a little bit sad to lose it too. Still, I reached into the top floor of the doll's house and opened the miniature wardrobe. Then I took out the fang, held it tightly between two fingers. It's here, I said, holding it towards Mignotet. But I don't know if I want to give it to you. Why not? Said Mignotet. I thought you were half fairy. Fairies always leave their teeth for the tooth fairy. Yes, I said, but I'm also half vampire, remember? That's why I have fangs in the first place. I suppose, said Mignotet. I was hoping you might have forgotten you were half vampire just for tonight. She scuffed her little paws on the doll's house floor, disappointed. She looked so sweet that I couldn't help laughing. I could never forget that I'm half vampire, I told her. It's who I am. Of course, sighed Mignotet. Oh well, maybe I take a look at it anyway. I've never held a vampire fang before, but I've read so much about them. I promise I will give it back. I put the fang down carefully on the miniature dining room table and Mignotet scurried over to inspect it. She said, and another, Is it a good one? I asked hurtfully. It would be, said Mignotet, if it was just a little bit more polished. Oh, I said in surprise. Yes, said Mignotet, I'm afraid I would only be able to give you a shiny coin for that fang. It's not shiny enough. But I always brush my teeth, I said, starting to feel a bit indignant. Every morning and night. But do you go to vampire dentist? Said Mignotet, and have them polished properly? I feeling my face go red again. I don't like the dentist. Mignotet looks shocked. Why ever not? She squeaked. Dentists are wonderful. They help us keep our teeth healthy and look like pearls. I know my ass, I whispered, hanging my head. I just find going to the dentist a bit scary. I went with my dad this evening, but I couldn't ever sit on the chair. I ran away. Oh dear, said Mignotet with a flutter out of the doll's house, landing on my lap. She patted my leg encouragingly with her tiny paws and said, Truly, I don't think you can say you don't like dentists until you're actually being properly. I guess, I said. I think you should try again, said Mignotet. You should try again because if your fangs was polished properly, it would be worth the biggest shiny gold coin that we have. Really? I said, feeling a flutter of anxiety start up in my chest and the thought of going back to the dentist. Really, said Mignotet. She dropped the tooth into my lap, looking a bit sorrowful to see it go. I picked it up again and slipped it into my pajama pocket. I'm going to keep my fang for a while longer, I said. I still haven't quite decided what I want to do with it. Okay, sighed Mignotet. I will come back in a few nights' time to see if you've changed your mind. I saw her shoulders slump and I felt a bit disappointing her, but I beginning to feel a bit fed up with worrying about disappointing people. Why shouldn't I do what I want to do with my fang? It's mine after all. I'm sorry, I said. Let me make it up to you. Do you want to have a midnight picnic? Mignotet's velvety ears perked up in the mention of picnic. Will there be cheese? She asked. Lots, I said, and other things too. I flapped my wings and rose up into the air. Flying is the best way to stay silent. Together, Beanoted and I flew down to the stairs and into the dark kitchen. I knew that if we were quiet, then nobody would disrupt us. Mom and Honey Blossom were asleep, and Dad would be out for his nightly fly. Here's some cheese, I said, getting a block of cheddar out of the fridge. And how about an apple? And there are some cakes sparkling in the baking cupboard. They will be like sweets to someone your side. I saw Mignotet's eyes turn big and round. Do you mind if I do some tooth fairy magic? She asked. I'd love to see some tooth fairy magic, I said. Mignotet got out her teeny wand and waved it at the block of cheese. Whoosh! There was a fluff of glitter dust that looked suspiciously like the sparkling fairy flower that Mom used to do baking of the block of cheddar vanished. In its place was a tiny plate of cheese cones. They looked golden and delicious. Mignotet pointed her wand at the apple. Whoosh! Next to the cheese cones stood a tiny apple pie, all steaming hot. You have got any ice cream? Asked Mignotet. I think so, I said, excited, and ran over to the freezer. Here it is, I said. Mignotet waved her wand a final time. Whoosh! A tub of ice cream vanished, and in its place stood 2 tiny ice cream sundaes. I took a pot of cake sprinkle and shook them onto a swirling and whipped ice cream on top. What a feast, said Mignotet. Thank you, Isadora. Together, we began to eat. It only took a few seconds to fly my half of the middle picnic, but it was still so delicatable. It felt quite magic sitting there together in the quiet kitchen while anyone was fast asleep. Everything sounded different too. The clock ticked louder than usual, and the breeze hummed in the silence. At last, Mignotet finally finished her picnic and wiped her mouth delicately. That was perfect, Isadora. Thank you. It's quite all right, I said in my politest voice. Don't forget to brush your teeth before you get back into bed. I must be getting off now though, said Mignotet. I have a few other teeth to collect. I'm getting behind the schedule and I don't want to be late back on my first mission. Are you sure you don't want to give your fangs tonight? Not yet, I said. I'm sorry. I understand, sighed Mignotet. But I will be back in a few nights to see if you change your mind. Then she fluttered into the air and dropped a tiny velvety kiss on my cheek before flying out of the kitchen into the hallway and disappearing through the letterbox. Chapter 5. You've lost your tooth, said Mom at breakfast the next morning. When did that happen? Have you still got it? Asked Dad hopefully. It's safe in my bedroom, I said. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. Ah, said Dad. I must have looked a bit worried then because Mom said you mustn't feel any pressure to do with particular things with your fang, Isadora. It's your fang and you must do whatever you like with it. Yes, you must, agreed Dad. I know Mom would love it too if you give it to the Tooth Fairy, and I will love it to have it framed on the wall. But what we would love the most to do it is feel happy for your choice. Really? I said. Of course, smiled Mom. Okay, I said. Well, before I decide anything, Dad, can you book me another appointment at the dentist? Dad almost spat out his red juice. What? He sputtered. So soon? I thought you hated the dentist. I might hate it, I said, but I can't be sure to hate it if I haven't tried it, can I? No, said Dad. That's definitely true. What a wise thing to say. How exciting. Another trip to the Count Binoculars. I will book you appointment after breakfast. The following evening, Dad and I stood in front of the tall arched door to Count Binocular Dentistry, and I shivered. I still felt frightened, and I had decided that I was going to let myself feel frightened and do the scary things anyway, even though my heart was pounding and even though I felt a bit sick. Dad and I sat in the waiting room and I tried to distract myself by looking at the magazine, but they were all about teeth, so I hugged Pink Rabbit tightly instead. Suddenly the door opened and the same assistant poked his head around. Is it Ramon? Dad and I followed the assistant down the corridor and back into Count Binocular's dentistry room. Hello again, he smiled, and I noticed again how white and sparkly his fangs were. I bet his first fang would have been worth the biggest and shiniest coin, tooth fairy coin. There's nothing to be afraid of, Isadora, he said. I will be very gentle, and you can hold your pink rabbit if you like. Come and sit down. Even though my legs were shaking, I managed to walk into the chair and slid in onto it. Marvelous, said Count Binocular. Well, you've made the first step. Just think of it all in little steps and it won't seem as scary. Would you like cucumber slice on your eyes for full relaxation experience? No thank you, I squeaked. Oh, I do recommend them, said Dad. I don't want them, I said. I want to be able to see. Fine, said Count Binocular. Now, if you'd like to open your mouth, please, I'm just going to have a little look. I made myself open my mouth, and Count Binocular leaned over to me. Peering. He said. Very good. It wasn't that bad, and I started to feel a little braver. I'm just going to take this little mirror now, said Count Binocular, so I can see better. It won't hurt. I nodded and I kept my mouth opened wide while Count Binocular put the little metal mirror into my mouth and moved it around. He started to say lots of funny words and I could hear his assistant scribbling down with a pen on a clipboard. I started to relax even more. This was fine. This was all fine. Everything looks good in there, said Count Binocular, but your fang could do with a polish. I can see the new one peering through too. Okay, I said, starting to feel a bit worried again. Are you going to use that happy thing again? No, said Count Binocular, not for young vampire. I'm going to use this little wheezy brush and this special vampire tooth whitening past. Open wide, please. I opened my mouth and Count Binocular began his work. Brush, brush, brush. I patted him. I felt him put some past on my remaining fang, which felt strange, and then he brushed it some more. It didn't taste nice, and the brush started to feel a little scrappy after a while, but I made myself keep my mouth open anyway. And before I knew it, Count Binocular said, "All done." Really? I said in surprise. Was that it? That was it, said Count Binocular, and held up the mirror so that I could see my fang. Ooh, I said, because it really did look very white and sparkly. Then I remembered something. I put my hands in my pocket and took out my other fang. Count Binocular, I said, would you mind just polishing this one for me too? I don't see why not, said Count Binocular, as you were such a good patient. He took the fang and I watched as he used the wheezy brush and paste to make it bright and sparkly. Then he started to talk to me about ways I could keep my fangs nice and shiny at home. You need to upgrade your toothbrush now that your big fangs are coming through, he said, and opened a drawer. There were lots of toothbrush in the velvet box. You should buy one of these, he said. Oh yes, agreed Dad. I love my special vampire toothbrush. But that one looks even better than mine. I stared at the toothbrush in amazement. It looked very fancy. Studded with rubies and with black trolley handle. There were 3 different brush opposition at the top. This is the latest in the range, said Count Benetilla. We had better take 2 then, said Dad. Thank you very much. I hope of the dentist chair, and Dad and I said goodbye to Count Benetilla. I couldn't help skipping out of the door and down to the corridor and to the reception desk where Dad paid for a new toothbrush. I felt so pleased with myself. I can't believe I did it, Dad, I said, as we left the building and rose up into the air together. I felt silly for being scared of the dentist before now. I wasn't bad at all. Most things aren't as bad as you think they're going to be, said Dad, as we whooshed through the starry sky. It's often the fear of something that's worse than the actual doing it. Now, where are we going? Home or Milkshake Burger? Milkshake Burger, I said happily as I did a loop-loop in the air. Dad and I flew towards the center of the town and I landed on the street outside the restaurant. There were still lots of people inside, having late night dinner. It looks bright and cozy. Take for 2, please, said Dad when we walked in, and we were shown to the little booth by the window. What will you have? Asked Dad. I think I'm going to stick to a tomato juice, and maybe I will have a lead ice cream. I'd like a double cheeseburger with fries, I said excitedly, and can I have a milkshake too, with whipped cream and rainbow sprinkles? 1 cheeseburger and milkshake coming right up, said Dad, and he went up to the counter to order. I sat back in squishy seat of the booth and hugged Pink Rabbit tightly. I still felt so pleased with myself for conquering my fears of the dentist. Dad, I said when he came back to the table, I've got something for you. Oh, said Dad. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my sparkling white fang. You can have it, I said. I know how important first fangs are to vampires. Really, said Dad, his eyes lightening up. I want you to have it, I said. It's tradition after all, and I'd be sad to see it go too. I put the fang on the table and pushed it towards Dad. Thank you, Isadora, he said, and it's so beautiful polished. I will treasure it forever. And I am going to give the second one to Tooth Fairy, though, I said. I do want a fairy coin. And now I know how to keep my fang polished. I will be able to get the shiniest gold one. A good idea, said Dad, beaming. That sounds like a wonderful compromise. Then our food arrived. I stared at the huge plate of fries in front of me. At the tower double cheeseburger. And at the giant pink milkshake covered all over in hundreds and thousands. Ketchup? Asked Dad. I'd have ketchup over all of it if I were you. Make it all nice and red. I laughed. I will have a bit of ketchup, I said, spurting some onto my plate. Then we didn't talk anymore because I was too busy eating and Dad was too busy slurping his tomato juice. It was very cozy sitting together in the warm light of the restaurant while outside the sky was inky black and twirling with stars. I smiled, feeling fireworks of happening fizz inside me. This was turning out to be the one of the nicest evening ever. Maybe going to the dentist really could be nice father and daughter bonding moment and all. Chapter 6. A few nights later, I was snuggled up in bed and with Pink Rabbit when I heard a little tapping sound at my window. Mignotel, I whispered, jumping out of the bed and rushing to open it. Hello, squeaked Mignotel, fluttering into the room. It's nice to see you again. It's nice to see you too, I said. Have you made your mind about your fangs yet? Said Mignotel. I have, I said. I'm really sorry, but I gave it to Dad. Oh, said Mignotel, sounding so disappointed. But listen, I said, I've got 2 fangs, haven't I? And the other one is definitely reserved for you. Really? Said Mignotel, clasping her paws together. Do you really mean it? Absolutely, definitely, I said. So you will get your medal from the king after all. And I've been keeping the fangs nice and polished for you. I went to the dentist. You did? Gasped Mignotel. Yes, I said proudly. Then I opened up my doll's house and reached in for something small and special. It's an extra medal for me, I said. I made this specially for you, from silver paper and this tiny piece of ribbon. It's for helping me to be brave even though go to the dentist. I would never have done if it hadn't been for you. Oh, Isadora, said Mignotel, and I was sure I could see little tears shining in the corner of her black beady eye. This is better than any official tooth fairy medal. I'm so pleased I could help you. That's okay, I said, gently putting the tiny medal over Mignotel's head. She beamed with pleasure. Do you want to see my other fang? I asked. Dad framed it already. I'd love to, said the Mignotel, and so together we crept out of the bedroom and flew downstairs to the entrance hall where my fangs was displayed in pride of place in fancy black frame. Ooh, said Mignotel, it looks wonderfully shiny. Thank you, I said. We stared at the fang for a while longer, and then I saw Mignotel glistening towards the entrance to the kitchen. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? She whispered. I think I might be, I said. Mignotel rubbed her paws together in glee. Time for another midnight picnic. Turn the page for some Isadora things to make and do. Making a medal. In Isadora Moon meets the Tooth Fairy, Isadora make a special medal for Mignotel. You could make a medal for someone you know and give it to them as a gift. Which job? What will you do when you grown up? Take the quiz to give you some ideas. Cheese gone. In Isadora Moon meets the Tooth Fairy, Mignotel magicked up some delicious cheese scones. You could try making some yourself. Make sure you have a grown-up with you to help you with the oven. Method. Many more magical stories to collect. Harriet Muncaster. Harriet Muncaster, that's me. I'm the author of an illustrator of Isadora Moon. Yes, really. I love anything teeny tiny, anything starry, and everything glittery. Isadora Moon. For more activity and information about the books, visit Isadora Moon on Oxford Owl. For exciting automated Isadora Moon content, go to Isadora Moon on Instagram. To visit Harriet Muncaster's website, visit Harriet Muncaster Co-op. Isadora Moon is special because she is different. The end.